Oh, Branch Mama angry. I mean, seriously though, look at these claws. Branch Mama is furious. Drycha here, in a very special replay. This is sort of a bit of a fun one up against Order del Saqueo once again, and we're doing, Drycha versus Heinrich Kemmler, because of course, and I've brought some campaign-only units, which are part of Drycha's campaign. We've got the Malevolent Treekin, Malevolent Dryads, basically like Treekin and Dryads with Frenzy, just angrier, you know, angry trees, but somehow angrier. And there's the big boy here, Coadil, which is Unbreakable Anti-Large Durthu, just angrier Durthu, again, somehow, probably one of the coolest looking models in the game, in my opinion. He's got Lore of Beasts, he's also a Mortis engine. Anyway, let's talk about Drycha a little bit as this absolutely mad fight kicks off here. We'll get it in slow motion. She's a Lore of Shadows caster, and she's got a few abilities here. So she can summon 2 Malevolent Dryads with this Rouse to Wrath ability. Likewise, Penumbral Pendulum and Enfeebling Foe from Lore of Shadows. Every time I cast a spell to it, it'll give plus 15 ability recharge. If you really wanted to maximize this, you probably just take Enfeebling Foe and Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma. But anyway, she, as she takes damage, will give all allies in 40 meters a successively greater melee attack and melee defense buffs, in particular up to plus 15 melee attack, which is pretty insane. Or she is a Dryad, Branch Wraith more or less, 80 armor, physical resistance, all that jazz, weak to fire. And yeah, Coadil's here protecting her. We're up against just a bunch of typical undead scum, Terror Goose. We've got Skeleton Warriors, Skeleton Spearmen. We've got the Vargeist here, which I notice now deal primary armor piercing damage. Finally, Devils of Shortshoffen, they're going to do their best. But the angry Dryads, I mean, Dryads, Treekin especially, are going to be better in this matchup. Oh yeah, I also have the Regiment of Renowned Zotes here for some extra healing. In case we need a regrowth on anyone, they're going to be fantastic. Zotes, of course, have magic attacks, anti-large AP, kind of like Dragon Ogres, but a little bit worse. They also do lower magic resistance, though. But yeah, Coadil comes in here. He's just slapping, just absolutely pounding everything that comes in range. And as I mentioned, acting as a Mortis engine, Krell gets summoned up in here. But the Manticore gets summoned by Coadil, and he's going to drop down, do quite a bit of damage to just everything in this kind of pocket. It's definitely a tree grind. Got a couple of Eternal Guards to come in here as well. Just you know, just for some chaffs, for some fodder, if you will. But I love the Malevolent Dryads and Treekin. The purple color scheme just looks fantastic on them. It looks so spooky, and Coadil just, man, he is burning with rage, literally. Just super cool. His like bark's all blackened and dark. Oh yeah. Yeah, if I can highlight his abilities here, it gives Howl of the Forest plus 9 melee attack in an AoE. This Murder of Spites here is what you're seeing kind of drain the vampire units out, more or less like a Mortis engine. He can give minus 100% vigor from that one there. And here comes the Malevolent Dryads. Kind of gives the Awakening of the Wood effect, which is super cool, I think. And then the Malevolent Dryads are summoned up. And they are Malevolent Dryads, of course, with that extra frenzy and everything. It's a pretty decent ability. Having 2 of them on summon is pretty good. Drycha herself is relatively squishy, but so far she's been able to stay safe from Krell and the other big nasties here, from the Terror Goose and so on. I'm going to throw a Penumbral Pendulum over there. Just keep Branch Mama chillin'. She also is not a pushover of a combatant by any means. 445 weapon damage, 77 weapon strength. She actually comes over here to fight Krell. Gets pushed out of the way by Blood Knights, but there it is. She's not one of those top-tier combat characters who's basically never going to get knocked over, not like Krell. And she actually gets thrown there by him, or by something else perhaps, but Branch Mama, you know, she's got those thick quads. She can definitely squat back up. You know, she's definitely been hitting the squat rack. You can tell by her legs. Yeah, fantastic though. Super, super cool. I'm a huge fan of this unique faction, and as I mentioned, these are, for multiplayer, these are considered campaign only, these Malevolent units. Coadil is maybe a little bit overpowered for his cost, but the Malevolent units, I mean, they are slightly more expensive than their base counterparts. So you are paying for the Frenzy. Still, though, you can see just in this kind of long-term grind engagement, the Vampires did not bring a Mortis engine, and the Wood Elves did. You know, kind of turning the tables a little bit. Goose is also hopelessly stuck up in Dryads and Zotes, and Devils of Schwarzhofen are going to drop a little bit of a rear charge there. It's honestly a little bit hard to see what's going on here. Just a giant, chaotic mass of angry monsters. Somehow Drycha is just in the middle of all this. Totally fine. I don't know. She must not have been targeted too much, but I was using Flesh to Stone on her as well. From the Zotes, of course, they have Bound Flesh to Stone. Puts her up to 140 armor, so she can tank some of this non-armor piercing damage, like the Grave Guards and so on won't be doing too much to her. Blood Knights and so on. So, pretty good stuff. I don't know if this is necessarily the best representation of how she's going to be used in competitive multiplayer, but I just wanted to bring you guys something that was a little more fun, show off some of these other campaign-only units like Coadil. Got some action with the Arwar Zotes as well, who I do think are going to be pretty solid in this matchup. Zotes in general, I think, will be decent in the cavalry-based matchups, like Vampire Counts. This was always a matchup that was a little bit weird for both sides because of just the way that the meta plays out. Oftentimes it develops into very weird engagements, like with the air spam or other things, but the tree units were always good in this matchup, and now I think they're even better, especially since you can Vanguard. I mean, not that it matters too much Vanguarding on Vampire Counts, but I don't know, maybe you want to catch your opponent off guard, but regardless, Bull played to HTS. It was a fun one, a little bit of a rough situation to throw him in there against Big Nasty Coadil, but yeah, Coadil is an absolute beast. Got 3,000 points worth of value, not to mention Summon Man scores. It's absolutely ridiculous. He is going to be a lot of fun to play with in campaign. Drycha here also, 900 points in terms of value. Pretty good stuff, and then on top of that, the 2 Summon Dryads definitely paid for herself. She's not too expensive. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. But the Malevolent Dryads, more or less, all like decently cost effective. I think they cost 475, so that's right on par. Treekin a little bit less so, but hey, they're also there. Zotes, almost 2,000 damage in terms of value, plus their healing and Flesh to Stone, which I did take advantage of all 3. Well, 2 Flesh to Stone charges, 1 regrowth charge, rather. So they definitely paid for themselves as well. I think they're going to be pretty solid in this matchup. Like, honestly, you could just about transpose this build. I mean, obviously, Coadil have to swap out for some other tools, and that does make a pretty big difference. That Mortis Engine drain was definitely a factor here, but just in general, kind of the Dryads, the Treekin also, I think, are going to be pretty solid. Dryads are generally okay against Vampire Counts. They have immune to Psychology now, and they're a little bit faster as well, so yeah, on HTS's side, a little bit rough for the Vampire Counts, but I mean, feel bad. I'm not necessarily feel bad, but it was a rough time for him as a player, but I don't feel bad for the Vampire Counts at all. So there's that. Yeah, anyway, just to kind of finish up with Ranch Mama here and talk a little bit more about I haven't really figured out where she fits into the meta in terms of matchups, like where she'll be really good. But in general, she's not very expensive, which is a benefit. She's also a caster lord, which is another benefit. Lore of Shadows is pretty decent too. Umbral Pendulum is always very good, Enfeebling Foe, and like I said, if you really want to shut down your opponent's casting, like Kotep can in some circumstances, Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, Enfeebling Foe, you're just spamming these 2 as much as you can, and you'll get pretty good effect. You could even take Withering's also only 7 Winds of Magic, so maybe you take that as well, just to maximize your spell shutdown. Likewise, Withering's also pretty decent, minus 30 armor, definitely synergized with some various units pretty well. Then, like I said, you can heal her with the Zotes. And yeah, like, just overall, Infantry Lord kind of squishy. She is weak to fire damage, which will come into play in certain matchups. Like, I don't know that I would take her against Empire, or like Chaos, Norska, maybe not. Dark Elves, potentially, I think she might have a place, honestly. But I kind of need to just play around with her a little bit more and see what matchups she'll be good in. I don't know if she's really going to be meta. I think she'll be more of a fun pick in a lot of matchups. But the double Dryad summon's definitely decent. It's, yeah, it's pretty solid. One thing to note, though, in terms of summons, so the Manticore summon has been increased Winds of Magic, which is definitely a nerf, but in also, both the High Elves and Wood Elves now instead summon a Great Eagle. And this is something that I'm not super pleased about in terms of balance, because it basically means that this spell is just worse now, straight up, for casters that can only cast that. I should note that Durthu and Coadil both still summon Manticores, which is nice. So if you do want to take that summon, I would say you almost require to bring Durthu, just because the Eagle summon, definitely not worth 18 Winds of Magic. Eagles are not, they cost the same as Manticores as it is currently. I'm hoping that will be changed before the patch goes live. But Manticores are in no way equal to Great Eagles, and so, in my opinion, these spells should not cost the same. Like, this one should maybe only cost like 12 Winds of Magic, or 14 even. Not 18. That's way too much to pay for an Eagle. So, you do kind of lose out on the ability to summon a Manticore if you have Drycha, so you can't really maximize these summons like I did in that battle. That does require these campaign-only units, right? So, if I come in here and turn unit caps off, then you have access to Coadil, you have access to the Malevolent Treemen, you got the Great Hawks here, Giant Wolves, Giant Spiders, you know, various other units. So, you can only access these, though, with unit caps off. So, in tournaments and in quick play and so on, you're not going to be able to get the Manticore summon with Dryad summon, which is a little bit sad in my opinion, but hey, there it is. It is what it is. Hopefully it gets changed before the patch goes live, like I said. But Drycha, just given the fact that she's a cheap caster lord, I think will be decent overall. Kind of remains to be seen where she'll see the most use, but I'm sure you guys will let me know. Theory craft down in the comments. Where do you see with Drycha's ability set? Where do you see her fitting in well? What matchups would you potentially try her out in? Curious to see your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoy. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.